Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. If you've been following along with this tutorial series, you'll remember that in the previous video I said that we would be starting on to work on something new in the next video. Came up with an idea of how easy would it be to implement an infinite scrolling mechanism. So once you hit the bottom of this, you would load in a fresh batch of data from Marvel and so on and so on. So it looked like it was an infinite scroll. Because at the moment we're loading in our 20 items and we hit the bottom and that's it. It stops. And Marvel have got a whole bunch more characters than these 20. So so we're going to implement something like that today, and also we're going to just have a little bit of a cleanup because I found that there could be a potential bug in the code that I wrote in the previous video. So we'll clean that up as well. It's only a one line fix. It's super simple. If you've been following along to the video series and not yet subscribed, please do so by clicking the subscribe button and turn on post notifications so that you can be informed of any future videos that I upload. And if you are stumbling across this video for the very first time, I will put the links to the description, links to the previous videos in the description below. So let's crack on with building this infinite scrolling mechanism and fixing the small issue that I found could potentially happen. It's highly unlikely in this app, but in a real world app it could potentially happen. So, and that is when we go to our detail view. If you look here, we have this spinning activity indicator and we have these comics that get loaded in and another activity indicator. And the issue could potentially be in our set data method in our character details collection view data source. So this collection view that sits at the bottom of this view here, which is a table view, and this horizontal scroll is just a collection view. So the issue or potential issue could be in this set data function. So on lines 61 and 62, we've created our activity indicator, which we did in the previous video. The link for that is appearing above if you want to go back and watch that again or for the first time. So we're creating our activity indicator, and we have our start animating function, which basically calls the start animating on the standard UI activity indicator. Then we create our text, and this guardlet is where potentially we could have a bug. So for example, we present our activity indicator, we start our activity indicator. If we were to ever come into this block here, it would never get removed. It would stay there unless we moved away from the screen. So to fix that, it's just a one line fix. It's just activity dot stop animating, and that's all you have to do, and that's what we've done in this completion handler for the SD web image on line 71. So this line here will just, if we ever enter this guardlet block here, because of this return, until I had put this line in, because of this return, we would never actually remove the activity indicator away from off the view. It would always stay there. It would probably get covered by this comic book and never be seen, but it's not the point. You don't really want to have that hanging around and stuff like that. So this one line activity dot stop animating will actually remove it from the super view as well. It will stop the animation on line 30. This is inside our activity indicator.swift file. So on line 30 will actually stop it from animating, so it'll just be still sitting there, but line 31 is where we do the cleanup, and we'll remove it from the super view. So yeah, it was just that quick fix that I wanted to introduce, and just give you a quick overview of why I wanted to add it. So anyway, let's get back to this screen here and adding some sort of infinite scroll mechanism. So we have, in my project, I have home data source, which is the data source for this collection view. So in our request handler, we're going to have to make some changes so that we can send in an offset. So basically the offset is we're going to make a request. So this offset will actually say, I want the next X, the next X, the next X. So in this instance, we're saying we've got a limit of 70. We haven't in our test app. But this is just a mocked payload I prepared before I recorded this video. So we have a limit of 70. So on our next request, we want to say we want to start at 70 and finish at, or we want to start at 71 and finish at 140, and so on and so on. And we'll look at implementing that and see how we get on. So in our GateCharacters, we're going to have a page number parameter now, and it's going to be of type int, and we're going to also provide it a default value. So this will be page number will be 1. And then in our build query string, we are going to have two parameters. We're going to pass in two parameters. One is going to be the page number, and that's going to be of type int, and it's going to have a default value of 1. And we're also going to be should page. So this is of type bool. This is a boolean, and our default value is going to be false in this instance. So basically, this will actually, the reason we're providing false values here, these default values, sorry, is because we also use build query string in our get comics, and this, they don't need to be passing in additional parameters. They just want to do call build query string, open and close the brackets, and that's it. They don't want to have to worry about, or when you're developing on a larger scale, you don't want to have to be worrying about, oh, do I need to pass in values? You just, in this instance, you just want to open and close the brackets, and that's it. So that's why in build query string on line 33 here, we're actually passing some default values to the parameters that we're asking for, so that we don't have to the build query string on line 26 in our getComics function doesn't have to pass those in. So with that being said, our let query string now needs to change to a var, and we need to add an if statement. So we need to say if should page. So if the should page parameter above is true, then we need to say query string equals query string, and then we need to pass in a limit and an offset. So our limit is going to be our limit is going to be 20. We're going to start with 20. So this is going to be limit plus, and then we're going to do a string and limit equals 20, and then offset equals, and this is where we're going to pass in a value. So here we're going to say, actually we could store the, let's do private var limit equals 20. So this is always going to be a fixed value. So then here we can go limit like so, and then here we could do something like var. Actually, we're going to pass in we'll make the offset no, we'll go var offset equals limit times page number, like so. So basically the limit is going to be 20 and our page number is going to be 1. So we're going to have 20, and the next time we're going to pass in a page number, it's going to be 40, and so on and so on. So then if we just make this additional parameter needs to be offset, and then so basically our query string is going to be even larger now if this Boolean value is true. So we can actually, that's not being changed, so we'll make that a let. And that's looking good. So then up here, our build query string, we now need to pass in the page number that we're getting passed from our GateCharacters, and should it page, in this instance it should. So we're going to say page number, and should it page true. So whenever we call this GateCharacters endpoint, it will jump straight into here. So now we need to head on back to our data source, and that's where GateCharacters is called. And this function FetchData now has to accept a page number. And this is going to be of type int. And then here we're just going to go GateCharacters and pass in the page number like that. And then our home presentation is actually where the FetchData function is done. So our data source is initialized in our home presentation, or where all our view stuff is handled, and that's where the function FetchData is called. So now, because we need that additional parameter, it should allow us to pass in an additional, like so. So on the first load, we want to say we want to get page number of 1. So this function here that we have here, display layout, is always called when the view's initialized for the very first time. So if we look at our view controller, we have this presentation.display layout, and if we snap into here, like so, we have this is where this is initialized. So when we load it for the very first time, we always want to call page number 1. Then down here in our CollectionView delegate, we have a method that we can override called scroll did end decelerating. I think we'll go with that one. Yeah. Yeah, I think we'll go with that. Or we could use scroll. There should be an end dragging. That one there. That'll do. So now we need to get the offset of the scroll view. So we'll go offset y equals scroll view dot off content offset dot y, like so. And then the other one we need to get is the height. So we get the height of the scroll view. So that's scroll view dot content size dot height. And now we have these two here. That's showing warnings because we're not using them. We need to do an if statement. So we need to say if offset y is greater than height minus scroll view dot frame dot origin dot, is it the origin? Actually, probably size dot height. Yeah, it'll be size dot height. And then this here is where we want to call our data source fetch data. Data source dot fetch data, and then we want to pass in. We need to create a new variable now called page number, like so. And then we're going to start this off at 1. And then every time that this collection view is loaded, we want to do weak self equals weak self dot page number plus equals 1. Whoops. Like so. So every time that view is loaded, it'll increment the page number and reload the collection view. So now down here we'll just do page number. That should find it. It's not finding it because call it paging number. Paging number, like so, and that should fix it. So basically, when we get to the bottom of our collection view, we'll make a new request because of this this little if statement here. We'll make a new request to the fetch data. We'll make a new call to the fetch data function in our data source, which is handling all our request stuff, and then it will go away and then reload. Will add to the bottom of the collection view. But before we do that, we have to make a change to our line 14 reference variable, which is called character data source. So this is no longer a data source. This is going to be characters. Characters like so, and this is going to be now a an array of characters or character. So we initialize it at this point, and then here we can say characters like so, and then we need to do let character list of characters equals result dot data source dot characters. So that will give us a list of characters, and then here we'll do list of characters. In actual fact, you could remove that line completely and just do that. It makes it a bit cleaner. We need to unwrap that first. So if let, so yeah, we could do if let characters equals, and then unwrap this lot like so, and then move this inside the if statement, and then this else here you could show an alert. We're not going to do that in this video, but yeah, add in a comment there so that you know that, yeah, if that fails, then we should show an alert. Can't get whatever the characters, but in theory, if we get an error back, we shouldn't be reloading the data anyway, because our closure will check for the errors. So here, just pass that back to our characters array, our new characters array, and then down here we've got a fair bit to change. So here is we no longer have to worry about passing a default value if the count is nil. We can just do characters dot count, and then down here we just need to do, call it characters, and then because it's no longer an optional, we can just get rid of the question mark, and I think that will cover everything we need. We'll soon find out. I don't think I've missed anything off of there. Let's see if it builds. Oh yes, we need to change that too. So this is in our collection view delegate did select item at index path. So these are no longer optionals, so we can just we can just call, we don't have to worry about unwrap it or using the question mark as it for optionals because they're no longer optionals. So I think that's everything that needs to be done. See if it runs. Okay, so we're slightly off, but it pulls. Yeah, it's not working as I intended, but what's happening there? So let's go back through the code. Put breakpoint there. Cool. So paging. It's 5. Oh, I know why. I need to change the in the data source because because basically where I'm setting this equal to that, it's no longer that. We need to do append contents of sequence, and because this characters, I'll write it and I'll go through it. So here, because this is this characters that we're unwrapping here is now an array. We need to actually append it to the contents of the of an existing array. So this weak self.characters is our existing array, which we initialize on line 14. And because the data coming back now, we are actually not using the results, whereas before we was binding the results, which was a data source, to our reference variable in this class. We're no longer doing that because they're two arrays. We need to append the array that we're unwrapping on line 19 to the array we initialize when the data source gets initialized, and that should fix the problem, I think. Let's get rid of that breakpoint. Yeah, there you go. And we're scrolling again. Scrolling again. And if we scroll back up the other way, it's just kind of like an infinite scroll. The only thing is that we're missing a few characters at the beginning. So maybe we can change our on our presentation. If we pass in a page number of 0, it should give us. I've not really read up on how their offset works, but maybe if we pass in 0, let's see. If we pass in 0, then that would probably give us all the 3D man and the A-bomb, the ones we've been seeing before. Yeah, there you go. So we need to pass in 0. So these are all the characters we were getting before. We get to the bottom, making a new request, as you can see, and then we scroll again, and and that will kind of build up a infinite scroll. You could do something really clever and put an activity indicator at the bottom, but just one other thing I want to add is that an activity indicator when we load the view for the first time. So in our home presentation section, just create a var activity equals activity indicator, initialize that, and then just above where we do our fetch data, we're going to do activity dot display activity in view, and that's going to be collection view. So that's before we get all the data. Then on line 44, we need to start the activity indicators animation dot start animating, open and close. Then basically outside of where we're trying to unwrap this weak self, checked self is not nil and stuff, and the error is equal to nil. If the error is ever nil, then we need to remove the activity indicator as well. So in here we need to do dispatch q dot main dot async y and c and c, and then open and close, and then here we need to do self question mark dot activity dot stop animating, whoops, like so. So yeah, if this block here ever fails, we'll still remove the activity indicator. So now if we stop that and build and run, hopefully the IntelliSense on my Xcode's gone again, but hope those functions look correct. So with a bit of luck, we'll see a small spinner in the middle of the screen, and then once the data's loaded, it will disappear. There we go. And there it is gone. And you could add, like we did with the comic books, you could add a spinner per collection view cell. So that was it. That was basically the point of this video, was that we can pull in more characters when we get to the bottom of the scroll view. You could change at what point you load, but for this tutorial I've just added it on scroll view did end dragging delegate that comes part of the collection view, the collection views delegate, but there's lots of other options you could do, and just feel free to have a play around. But yeah, that's pretty much it. But you can all drill down and go into their comic list and stuff. So yeah, there's just a few more features that you can add to the comic book app. That's all. Yeah, it was just something I thought that might be quite interesting to try and do, and yeah, and that was it pretty much. It's pretty straightforward to implement. But yeah, so this is the other than the bug fix that I did at the beginning of the video to stop if any of these comics failed to get the path or the extension, the activity indicators would still be visible. That's now gone. That's been fixed, and yeah, added the infinite scroll stuff. But yeah, so this is the very last video of this tutorial series. Hopefully the people that have been following along have enjoyed building it. And in our next video series, I'm going to be looking at building maybe a social media type app using texture, but we're going to implement the Breaking Bad have got a free set of endpoints that you can point to, and I'm going to be using those endpoints to get characters and from Breaking Bad. I'm undecided. It may be Breaking Bad or it may be Star Wars. What with the Star Wars stuff coming up next month, the new movie coming out, I am slightly swinging towards that. So we may build like a social media type app around Star Wars, but we're going to be using texture. So give you a little insight into what texture does. So let me just pull up a window. So it's an open source project, texture group, but it used to be owned by Facebook. It was formerly Async Display Kit, but I think it's made by Pinterest now. But it allows you to do UI stuff on the background. It's a really clever app, framework, sorry. But yeah, so the next video will start off with like how we install it using CocoaPods and stuff like that. I'll go into more of the website and what it can do in the next video. But hopefully you have enjoyed this video series, and like I say, this is my first ever one. This is what I said on the first video. This is my first ever video, ever set videos on YouTube. If you think that I don't cover stuff in detail enough, or you'd like to see certain things around coding in building apps and coding in Swift and stuff like that, then please feel free to let me know. I'm going to be doing some live sessions as well. That's the plan, to do some, maybe not some live coding, but maybe some Q&A, and I don't know yet around the live stuff. I'm not sure, undecided. But yes, I hope you've had a wonderful weekend, and I hope you've enjoyed the video series. Please hit the like and a like button or a dislike button. They all count, and they'll help me on my journey. And yeah, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment as well, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.